Now, once you're in Gmail, this is my live Gmail account. Now, I'm going to go ahead and you follow my mouse here. Oh, by the way, sometimes I'll make my mouse do that so you can find my mouse that way. So then you're looking for the apps over here, and we're going to click there. And then you can see within your Gmail, you have many, many different things you can do. And if you scroll down, there's even more than that. There's a lot of things you get for free with your Gmail account. Not too many people know about those things, but when you really pick on those apps and start going through Google has a lot out there that you get with your Gmail account. Anyway, what you do is you go to Google Drive right here. Now, once you're in Google Drive, then you can start to open up some of your existing documents, but I'm going to make a new document from scratch here. So I'll pick in the word new, and then you can start to see Google Docs is like Microsoft Word or similar to Microsoft Word. Google Sheets is what we're going to talk about today. It's similar to Excel. Google Slides is a lot like PowerPoint where you can make presentations. If I pick on more here, there's even more programs beyond that. But of course, today we'll talk about Google Sheets. I'll pick on this arrow, and there are some templates that you can use. If we have time today, maybe I'll go over some of the templates, but I'm going to go to a blank spreadsheet. Now, you'll notice that right away it looks like a spreadsheet. And there is many, many similarities to Google Sheets as compared to Microsoft Excel. The screens are going to be like kind of the classic menus, but you'll see a lot of similarities between Excel and Google Sheets. So you see your classic menus. So if I pick on File, this is where we can open up a new document or open up an existing document. I'm going to show you where we can import from Excel or other sources over here. You can make a copy of your document. That would be similar to like Save As, right? Then we can download, from Google Docs into Excel or different formats. So we can publish it to the web. All right, so under the File menu, another thing is Print, of course. If we pick on the Edit menu, this is where we have cut and paste and copy and paste and undo and redo. There's paste and paste special, find and replace, delete, delete a row or delete a column, all right? Then we have the View menu. Under the View menu, we have what is called Freeze Panes. So you can see, I'm going to show you that one pretty soon. Then we have where we can show the formulas. Instead of showing the actual calculation in a cell, we can show the formulas. We can zoom in. A really important menu is going to be the Insert menu. So I can insert rows or insert columns. This is where we can make a chart. An image, of course, is a picture. All right. A drawing is, Microsoft calls those shapes, but we can do the drawings there. A form would be like a data entry screen. Here's a lot of our functions, all right, which we'll get to pretty soon. A link means we can make a hyperlink from a cell. All right, so you can see some nice things under the Insert menu. Format is where, of course, we can get all kinds of great formatting. So we have our number formatting, bold, italic, underline, of course, strike through, font size. We can align it to the left, center, or right, or the top or middle or bottom of a cell. This is where you can do your text wrapping, text rotation, like change the angle of the text. This is where we can do conditional formatting, which I'm going to show you very soon. If we look at the Data menu, so this is where we can do sorts, filters, even the slicer is now available. If you've noticed that's gone through some of the menus, there's some new features. They're always trying to improve it, and they're always working on it. Google is spending a lot of time, a lot of resources, making this better and better all the time. Now we have data validation, pivot tables, the named ranges. So if it sounds like a lot of the topics that would be available in Excel, you're exactly right. They're really trying to, simulate Excel and duplicate a lot of those features. All right, so we see the data menu can be very important. There's the text to columns feature, removing duplicates. Under the tools, that's another place we can make a data entry form. Now there's even macros, which can automate repetitious tasks. All right, this is where we can do protection. And then there's different add-ons, which we're not going to talk about today, but there are many add-ons either from Google or from third parties that you can try to apply to your Google Sheets. And of course, we have the help menu. All right, so lots of help is available for Google Sheets. If we look at our toolbar, let's go through the icons. We have undo, redo. Now notice how if I move my mouse to an icon, if there's a keyboard shortcut associated with that, it'll tell you at that time. We have print, and then the format painter. Here it's called paint format, right? Then we have the zoom, some number formats, font size, bold, italic, and then we have a strike through, right? And then we have the text color. We have the background color of the cell, the borders, okay? This is where we can merge the cells together. You have your cell alignment. You have your vertical alignment, text wrapping, text rotation, link, insert a comment, chart, filter, and functions. So many of the features, like I said, are going to be similar to what you might see in Excel. Now, if you right-click on a cell, you'll get even more choices, of course. We can easily insert a row or column, delete a row, insert a link, okay? So you have a lot of good features if you just right-click on a cell. There's conditional formatting. There's data validation. Down here, we have our sheets, of course. If you want to add a new sheet, we could just pick on the plus sign. This will give us a list of all of the sheets. And then if you click on the pull that next to sheet 1, you'll see some great choices there as well. So let's start by doing some basic data entry. So it's going to work a lot like Excel in many ways. So let me show you one that's very popular. I'll type in the word January here. Now, of course, I can type in the rest of the month names, but here's what we call the speed fill or the autofill. So I'm going to click on that cell. You go to the corner of that cell and you get the black cross. That's called the speed fill or the autofill. Now I can drag that across, or I can click on the word January and get the black cross and drag it down. Either way is fine. Notice when it gets to December, it starts to go with January. Let me show you what else it works with. I'll type in Monday, because it works with the days of the week as well. So I'll get the black cross and drag it down. All right, so these are great ways to help you build your spreadsheet. So how about dates? So I just did Control semicolon on my computer. Control semicolon is going to give you the current date, and that is the date that we're recording it. So I'll do Control semicolon. I got today's date. I'll get the black cross, and you can see the speed fill works with the dates as well. So what about numbers? So I'll type in 1 here. Now let's go get the 1. Right now it has all 1s there, right? So watch what we'll do instead. Here I'll type in 2. So then I'll highlight the 1 and the 2. Then we'll get the black cross, and then it figures out what I want to do. All right, so many of those will be similar to what you would do in Excel. Now, if I want to get rid of some of those cells, of course, I could just click on that cell and delete it with my delete key. So the speed fill is going to work here. Now, just formatting is going to be the same as always. You can highlight certain cells, and then many of your formatting techniques are going to be on the toolbar. And then, of course, we have the format menu. So let's go ahead and highlight these numbers. And I'm going to say format, and then you have your number formats. Let's try, see what currency looks like, and so on, right? So formatting is not going to be difficult. We're going to be able to just highlight the cells in the normal way, and then you can either use your formatting up on the toolbar, or we can use the format menu, and you'll see a lot of the formats there as well. So if we wanted to make the cells have an angle, I could use this icon over here, text rotation, or that was also under the format menu. So you can see how this is going to make it so that they're going to be tilted up, and you can see the effect of that, right? Now let's see what tilt down looks like, right? So now just like here, we can make the text actually vertical, as you can see. So we have the text rotation. Now if you try something and if you don't like it, of course you can always undo. So undo is going to be over here, and I'll undo a few times. All right, so usually you can undo a few times. Now if you notice, it saves all the time. It's constantly saving to Google Drive. So you don't have to worry about saving. It's going to do an auto save for you. Now, if I want to make a copy to this file, then I would say File and make a copy. That's similar to Save As, right? But it's constantly saving, as you can see. Now, I would like to give this a title. So I'll just call it Class Data. Good. So now when it saves, if I make a change, you'll watch this over here, and you'll see that it saves every few seconds. So that's not a problem. Now let's try a classic one that's called conditional formatting. So let's say in this column, if it says Monday, I want those to be in red, but only if it says Monday. So we're going to highlight the data. Now we could have highlighted the entire column, but this will be fine. Now I can pick on the Format menu. Under Format, we'll pick on Conditional Formatting. And then you have this window. So we see the range. So I'm going to say if it you have all these different choices. Greater than, less than, text contains, right? So let's say it is equal to, and then I'll type in Monday. Now here you want to make that an exact match. Unless you say, cell contains, but in this case we'll say is equal to Monday, and then let's make those, what if we made those red? All right, and very quickly we can see how the cells that are Monday are now in red, and that would have happened all the way down. So conditional formatting is going to be under the Format menu. Now also another way to get to conditional formatting is you can highlight one cell or multiple cells, and then you can right click on those cells, and then you'll pick on conditional formatting from there. Okay, so that's a great classic feature. Let's try that again. Let's say if it's going to say Tuesday, we want those to be in blue. So I'm going to highlight the data again. And then conditional formatting is already there. I can add another rule. But just to make it official, I'll say Format, Conditional Formatting. We see that window comes up. Add another rule. And then I'll say if it's equal to, and we'll say Tuesday, then we'll make those blue. So it really stands out. Perfect. All right, looking good. And now I have conditional formatting. All right. Now, if we wanted to clear that, then we can go ahead and see how I move my mouse to that rule, and you pick on the trash can. Or I move my mouse to this rule. If I click on that rule, then I can actually edit it, right? But if I wanted to get rid of that rule, you go to that rule and you pick on the trash can. So there we have conditional formatting, obviously similar to what you might see in Excel. Not exactly the same, right? But very similar concept. Here's another one that I like, a really quick formatting technique. I'm going to highlight all of the cells, then I'll pick on Format, and then I'm going to say alternating colors. And look what that does very quickly. Every other row is a different color, right? So then you can pick different colors there as well. So that was a very quick and easy one. If you didn't like the way that worked, we can always undo. All right, so here's undo over there. So it's pretty flexible as far as formatting your data and those kind of things. Now, at this time, I'm going to go ahead and import from an Excel spreadsheet. So one of the great things about Google Sheets is it's very compatible with your Excel spreadsheets. So in this case, I'll pick on File, then I'll pick on Import. And then you would point to a file. So in this case, I'll pick on Upload. You can get it from your Google Drive if it's already there, something that's been shared with me, or we'll go ahead and upload a different file. I'm going to pick a file from my computer. In this case, I'm going to go into the banking example. All right, I'll pick on Open. So that's an Excel spreadsheet. It's actually converting that into Google Sheets. All right, so we're going to create a new spreadsheet. And now I'm going to pick on Open Now. And then here's that data. All right, so most of the things from Excel will import. Now, there's some functions that Excel has that Google Sheets doesn't have. And there's some functions that Google Sheets has that Excel does not have. Okay, so but most of it is going to be pretty compatible. So I'm going to get rid of some of these other columns over here. So I'm going to highlight, let's say, from letter H all the way over, and I don't really need those right now. Okay, good. But you can see it did import the data. So what we did at that point was I'll pick on File, and then I picked on Import. Then you can see, I can get it from your Google Drive, something that's been shared with me, a recent document, or at that point I picked on Upload, and I selected an Excel file from there. So Google Sheets and Excel are very compatible. Now, at this time, let's talk about what if we want to do a sort. Well, if you click on the columns, notice how when I move my mouse to letter B, or to any of the other letters, the little pull down is there. So when we click on that little pull down, then notice how we can do sorts pretty easily. This is where we can insert a column, delete a column, and so on. So make sure you see that little pull down. It's very subtle. You want to move your mouse to that column letter, and then you'll see the pull down, and that'll occur for each column automatically. Good. So in this case, let's sort it by the amount. And then very quickly, the higher amounts are up top and the lower amounts are at the bottom. Let's sort it by the account type. And again, I'm going to click on that little down arrow next to the letter C. And I'll say sort A to Z. So all the CDs are together and all the checking are together and so on. And by the way, it kept the whole row together. Okay. So good ways to sort here. Now, also, another way to sort is under the Data menu. All right, so here's the sort right under there, under the Data menu. No problem with that. We can sort in alphabetical order or in reverse alphabetical order. No problem with that whatsoever. So how about, can we do a filter here? What if I only wanted to see the ones that were from North County? So this will be under the Data menu. I'm going to click on that column where I want that to appear, and I'll pick on Data, and then we say Create a Filter. All right. Now notice how this new icon is there. You have to look really closely for that. That was not there 2 minutes ago. I'm going to click on that new icon, and then we'll say, I'm going to clear the values, and I'll pick on North County. You can pick on more than one, of course. I'll pick on OK. And now it only shows me the items from North County. Now, as we know, the filter is always temporary. I didn't lose any of my records. Everything is still there. The filters are just temporary. So let's say I want to get the ones from North County that are also checking. So I'm going to click on this little icon for the account type. And then I'll say clear. And we'll pick on checking. And of course, you could pick more than one. And now we have just the ones that are checking from North County. So the way we applied the filter, or one way we can do that, was we picked in the Data menu, okay? And then in this case, I picked in, it said Create a Filter at that time. Then, of course, I can turn off the filter. If I turn off the filter, then everything is back. So like I said, the filter is always temporary. So, once you really start getting into Google Sheets, you'll see many of the great features that are available in your Excel spreadsheets. So now here's another new one that's under the data menu. We can create a slicer. A slicer is a visual way to do a filter. Let's see how it works. I'll pick on the data menu and I'll pick in the word slicer. Notice how your slicers are made up of your fields. So let's pick on account type, right? And then in this case, we have the slicer over here. So I'm going to go ahead and pick on, we have account type. So now watch how it works. If I click on this pull down, then the slicer is more like a visual type of filter. So I'm going to go ahead and pick on clear here, and I'll pick on CD. Good. And now just the CDs are showing. So it's kind of a visual type of filter. Watch how it works again. So we'll go up to the data menu, and I'm going to add another new slicer. So this time I want it by branch. Good. And now we have that. So we'll click on the pull down. I'm going to clear the branches. I'll pick on central. And then it's central branch with the CDs. So the slicers are a great new way to do a filter. It's very visual, right? These are really catching on. People like these. It makes the spreadsheet more interactive and more user-friendly. Now I'll take everything back again. I'll say select all. Now all the branches will come back. Good. Then I'll come over to this one and we'll say select all, and I'll pick an OK there. And now all of those are back. So when you're done with your slicer, of course, we can, we can delete the slicer. I'm going to click on this one and pick on the 3 dots and delete that one as well. So those are movable windows that helps you do a filter a little bit better. Let's go back to our slides now. So this was when we first went into the Google Sheet in the blank workbook. Then here's the File menu. And under the File menu, of course, you would do New, Open, Import. Download means you're going to convert that to, save it to your computer or convert it to Excel. Of course, you can rename the workbook, publish it to the web, print it. Now, under the Edit menu, here we can see Undo, Copy, Paste, Paste Special. So then we have our Delete Rows. Oh, let's do the View menu with the Freeze Panes. That's a good one to know about. So I'm going to go back to Google Sheets now. All right. So as we see on this spreadsheet, the first row has your field names. We can call those column headings or field names. So I'm going to scroll down. Notice how that first row is not on the screen anymore. So we want to make sure that that first row stays on the screen, and that's what freeze panes means. So now if I want row 1 to be frozen on the screen, that's why I'm going to pick on row 2 first. So everything above your current cell is going to be frozen. So I'll pick on the View menu, and I'll pick on Freeze. So actually, here you have some other choices. You can freeze the first row. You could just freeze the top 2 rows, or the first column, or the top, the leftmost column. So let's do the first row. Notice how it drew a line between row 1 and row 2. I'm going to scroll down, and now we see how row 1 stays on the screen. So for your larger spreadsheets, that's very important. It's something that we do all the time. All right, so this way, when we scroll down, that header row is still there. So that's very important for your larger spreadsheets. Now, of course, if it's saved like that, it'll be like that the next time. If you want to turn that off, then we can pick on View and then Freeze and then No Rows. Now we can do the same thing with going across. So let's say I'm going to click over here and I want the first column to be frozen. So I'll pick on the View and then Freeze. Now I'll pick on the first column. Now if I scroll over, imagine there's more data over here. See how column A is still staying on the screen no matter how far I scroll over. So that would be another thing that you would freeze. You can freeze the columns or you can freeze the rows. When you're done with that, we'll pick on the View menu and we'll pick on Freeze and I'll say No Rows. Now let's add a formula into this spreadsheet. So let's say we're going to add interest onto this bank account. So over here we'll type in interest. Now I would like that title to be the same format as this title. So that's where we can use our classic format painter. So I'm going to click on the title whose format you want to copy. Then I'll pick on the paintbrush, the paint format, and then I'll click on the word interest so that it has the same format, you see. So this way I'm sure that it has the same format. So watch again. I'm going to undo that. I like the format of the word customer. So I'm going to click on that cell whose format I want to copy. I'll pick on that little paintbrush, the paint format, and then we'll just click on this other cell, and now the word interest has the same format. So that's a really good time saver right there. Your formulas in Google Sheets are going to work similar to the ones in Excel. They're always going to start with an equal sign. So I'll type in an equal sign. So let's say the interest, just for argument's sake, let's say it's going to be 2%. So I know that's probably high for a bank account, right? But I'm going to click on the amount B2 times 0.02. And then you can see that it did the math for us. Now I should be able to click on that cell, and then to copy it down, I'm going to go to where the black cross is in the corner of that cell. Now, of course, I can drag it down, but I just double clicked on that and then it goes all the way down. They'll actually go down as far as the previous column goes. You can see it stopped where column F stops. So yes, I could have dragged the black cross all the way down, but a quick thing that you can do is you can click on that formula, get the black cross. Of course, you can drag it down, but the quick way is to double click on the black cross, then it goes all the way down as far as it needs to. Now, let's go ahead and format that column. So I'm going to highlight column G. Now, many of your formatting options are on the toolbar, so I'll pick on the currency format. Looking good. Now, I see how that column needs to be bigger. Well, you would do that the same way that you would do it in Excel. So I'm going to go between letter G and letter H. See how we just got the double arrow. I'll double click on the double arrow, and that made it better. Or we can drag it back and forth as well. Good. So now let's take the total. I'll type in the word total. Now this time it picked up the right format. If it didn't, I would have used the format painter again. And I'll say equals the amount plus the interest equals B2 plus G2. So if you know how to do formulas here, they're going to work in a similar way. If you know how to do formulas in Excel, they're going to work in a similar way here. So let's copy that one down. We'll get the black cross, double click on the black cross, good. Now I like to format column B as currency. Of course, we have to make that bigger now. Good. I'm going to highlight column H. Column H is already currency, but it needs to be made bigger. So notice it's very similar steps that you might do from Microsoft Excel, which makes this extremely useful. And they're always adding more features and they're trying to improve it as they go along. I still have that freeze on. So that really isn't necessary anymore. Let's turn the freeze off. In this case, I'll pick on View and then Freeze, and I'll say No Columns. Good. All right. So nice little features here. Now we're starting to have a good looking spreadsheet. So the formulas will be very similar. Now, sometimes we want to add the built-in formulas. So in this case, if you follow where my mouse is going to go, we can pick on Insert. Of course, there's the classic FX, but I'll pick on Insert, and then we pick on Function. Now, you're going to see some similar functions that you might see in Excel, and then there's some different ones here as well. So there's array functions, the database functions like dsum and dcount. Excel has a lot of those. The date functions, managing your dates. Here there's some engineering functions. I know Excel has some of those. There's actually filter functions, financial. There's things specific to Google. All right, so in this case, detecting the language or Google Finance. Translation, it can go from one language to another. So you have some really interesting ones here. Info, is it text, is it number, those kind of things, you know. Logical is going to be the if. Lookup, all right, so that's where you get the Vlookup and the HLOOKUP. Math functions. Operators like add, minus, divide, and those kind of things. That's a different way to do those. Parser is interesting. It's how you can convert a field to different data types. There's statistical functions. So you'll notice that a lot of the same categories are here. So let's try to do the interest again. Let's say we want to have another way to calculate the interest. We're going to say if it says CD over here, the CD will get 5%. And everything else will get the 2%. So we'll start with the equal sign, and then I'll pick on Insert. We can pick on the, this is another way to get to the functions over here. Okay, so there's the basic functions like sum, average, count, minimum, and maximum. So that's similar like to the auto sum, but now this is also where you can get to all of your other functions. So in this case, we'll pick on logical, and we'll do a classic if. All right. So it's showing us kind of the syntax of that, and it gives you an example or two. So I'm going to say if this cell equals CD, and CD has to be in quotes because it's text. Now when you type in the function, you're going to separate the parts of the function with a comma. So I'll type in a comma. If that's true, then they'll get 5% times the number for that row, which is B2. I'm going to type in another comma. Now, if it's not CD, then the value of false will kick in. So I'll say 2% times the number for that row, which is B2. So if you've ever used an if in Microsoft Excel, you can see it's very similar here. Now, by the way, you could have just typed in that function, but to give yourself a little bit of an assist, then I would pick on this icon where we can get to a list of all of our functions. So I'm going to go ahead and press the Enter key. Good. So notice how the old interest for that was $1,800. But because it's a CD, it went up to $4,500. So let's make that column bigger. Now, you know what I like to do. I'm going to get that formula, get the black cross, double click there, and then it's going to go all the way down. Now, for those ones that say CD, the numbers in the interest column should be higher than the original interest because now there should be 5%. And they are, it looks like they're all higher. But once we get to different account types, this number should be the same as this number, and they are. Because remember how this one was 2%, and this one is 2% if it's not CD. Right, so all the other ones should be the normal number. Okay, good. So actually, I want to get rid of this column. This is kind of the older interest, and now we have a new calculation for the interest. So I can get rid of that column in multiple ways. I can right-click on that column and delete it like that. Or actually, yeah, let's delete it. Now, this is going to make that other formula not work very well, you see, because it doesn't know what to refer to. So you probably have seen those in Excel as well. So actually, I deleted what it referred to. So I'm going to delete that column, and we'll just recreate the total again. So now that we have the proper interest, now I'll type in total again. I'll type in equals this number plus this number. Good. And now we'll copy that down again. And then we'll make the column a little bit bigger. Excellent. Looking good. All right, so you can see the insert menu. Well, let's make sure we cover the view menu. So if I want to show the actual formulas, we pick on view and show formulas. Let's see what happens with this one. See how it actually displays the formulas in the cells. So then you can see which cells have a formula. From there, I can make those columns bigger, of course. But that's an interesting way to see the actual formulas. If you don't want to see that anymore, we'll pick on the view and then uncheck it where it says show formulas. Good. Let's continue with the view menu. We have a zoom. So right now it's at 100%, but let's see what 125 looks like. You can see it got bigger. So we have good zoom levels there. No problem with that. And then we even have the full page effect. So if I pick on view and then full screen, then it did fill the screen a little bit better there. All right, so looking good. Now, if we want to, now continue on with our examples, I'm going to go ahead and go back now. All right, so let's see where we're doing with our slides. So we were on the view menu. Let's move on to the insert menu. The next slide will show us the insert menu, and there's going to be some really great features in there. Now, we already talked about how to insert rows or insert columns, so let's make sure we do that for real. So I'll pick on Excel. And now, I'm sorry, we'll go back to Google Sheets is what I meant to say. All right, let's just force a habit right there. So let's say I wanted a new column that would say the state. So obviously I can right-click on a column and pick on insert one to the left or insert to the right. Here we can delete a column. Here you can hide the column, right? So you do a lot of great features when you right-click on that letter. Let's go ahead and insert one to the left. Good. And I'll type in state. So let's say that we know that the central branch is in Pennsylvania. Let's say North County is in New Jersey, and West Side is going to be in Delaware. So we'll do another if here. So I'll say equals if open parentheses this equals central. Now, if that's true, we'll do a PA there. Good. Now, if that's not true, I want to see if it's North County. So we have another if. So this is a little bit more of a complicated formula. This is a nested if. And we could do that within Google Sheets as well. So I'll say equals if this cell equals North County. Then that'll be New Jersey. Notice how I'm putting all the text parts of the formula within quotes, comma. Then if it's neither Central or North County, then that'll be Delaware. And then we'll close the parentheses. And I actually need a second closed parentheses for the other if. Okay, good. So take a look at this formula. Now, of course, you could have let Excel help you with the function builder. But in this case, I said equals if, open parentheses, E2 equals central, comma, PA. All right, so Central is going to give us PA, comma, if E2 equals North County, comma, New Jersey. So that means North County will give us New Jersey. If it's neither Central or North County, then everything else will get Delaware. And then we have close parentheses, close parentheses. At this point, I'm going to copy that formula down, and let's see if it worked. All right, Central got PA, North County got New Jersey, and everything else got Delaware. So that was a nice way to make it so that we were able to determine the state based on the branch. If you notice over here, I'm going to right-click on this corner, and I can say exit full screen. Good. Now we can see our menus again. So the full screen mode was helpful. To get out of that, I just right-clicked on that corner, and then we were able to leave the full screen from there. So I think that's all I want to show you with the View menu. Let's go over to the Insert menu. So I just showed you how to insert that row or insert the column, right? No problem with that. So let's talk about getting an image. So it says put an image in the cell or over the cells. Let's try either one of those. In fact, I'll do this on a different sheet. Notice how it's constantly saving the data. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new sheet now. Good. So let's go ahead and do one of those autofills again. So I'll type in January. And I'm going to click on that and then copy it down with the black cross, right? And we'll get Monday here. And then I'm going to click there, get the black cross, and drag it down. So now let's see what the image would look like. I'll say Insert, Image. Let's say Image over the cells. And then, again, you can take something from your Google Drive, take a picture at that point. You can get it from a website, but I'm going to go ahead and get it from my computer. So in this case, let's see if we have anything interesting in there. So let's get the plane. And now notice how the plane is overriding those cells, right? So now when I click on that picture, of course I can move it, but notice how the plane is, definitely over the cells. So with the picture, naturally I can resize it. If I pick on the three dots, we can delete the image, replace it, do different things with the picture. Now, let's see what they mean by putting an image in a cell. So let's say right over here, say Insert, Image, Image over the cell, Image in the cell. And you can see that's a new feature. Then we'll get the same plane again. Notice how it's actually inside of the cell, right? So that was kind of interesting fact, and I just copied it right on down. So I can have the normal picture, or we can put that image in a cell. What if that didn't work out as well as we thought? So then we can always undo, of course. In fact, I'm going to undo once and then twice. Even this one, I can pick on that picture, right-click on it, or pick on the three dots, put image in a selected cell, and then there we go, right? So I'm going to go ahead and undo that, and we see the pictures. Let's keep on going with the Insert menu. So we'll get the charts pretty soon. I'll leave that towards the end. Here we can do functions that we talked about. And then how about a link? What's a link? So I'll say, click here to go to google.com. All right, so I want to make that a clickable field, which is called a link or a hyperlink. So I'm going to go ahead and click there. We'll say Insert and then Link, Insert Link. Good. So it says paste a link or search. So at that point, maybe I can copy and paste a website in there, but I'll just type in www.google.com. And I'm going to go ahead and pick on Apply. Well, we can, actually pick the official site. Good. I'll pick on apply. Now you can see that that is an active link. So if I move my mouse there, you can see that as soon as I click that, I'll get the actual website, and then it'll bring me to the Google website. All right, so we can add those links in. Another link might be that you add would be for an email address. So I'll say, click here to send an email to support. All right, so we're going to click there. Once again, we'll say insert and then insert link. Now in this case, I want to send an email. Actually, I'm going to type in an email address. So I'm going to pick on that apply. Let me fix that. Let's see if that works. So I'll click that. Notice how it automatically knows that that was an email address. So if I click that, that should start a new email to that person, as you can see. All right, so those would be the different kinds of hyperlinks that we can add into our document. And you just pick a cell or pick an object, and you say insert, and then we say insert edit link, or it said link at that time. All right, so let's see if there's anything else interesting under the insert menu. You can see there's just some really popular features. Pretty soon we'll get to the charts. Under the format menu, so let's see what the themes look like. I'll pick on format and then the themes. And then you have some great themes that are already built out there. So it's talking about like the color schemes and things like that. So it has some great color schemes in there. If you wanted to, of course, make up your own, then you pick on customize, and then you can pick the font and the font size, and that'll apply that to the entire sheet. So that's a quick way to get a theme going on. Of course, under format, we have format numbers, bold, italic, underline. We know about all those. Font size, alignment. Let's do the text wrapping. So here, I'll type in a really long piece of text. So I'll say, this is a very long sentence. It overlaps into the next cell. So what if I want that, instead of going to the next cell, I want it to just word wrap right into this same cell. So we're going to click that. We'll pick on the format menu. You can see where it says text wrapping, and then let's see what the word wrap means. And now it wrap within the same cell, right? So if you want it to overlap into the next cell, we can just say format text wrapping and then overflow, right? But if you want it to actually wrap within the same cell, we pick on format and then text wrapping and then wrap. Perfect. Let's see what that clip does. I'll say format, text wrapping, and then clip. And it really just shortens it. It doesn't overlap it at all, right? So that's probably not the most, it's not probably the best thing I would do. I would either overflow it or actually wrap it. Good. So now notice how it made that cell taller to accommodate the additional text. Under the format menu, we already talked about the text rotation, and we already did the conditional formatting and the alternating colors. Now, if you want it all formatted to be clear, we have one that's called clear formatting as well. Let's go to our data menu. Okay, good. So we did the sort, we did the filter, we did the slicer. Let's do a classic one that's called data validation. So data validation means that it's only going to accept certain types of data in your spreadsheet, and it's going to reject everything else. Let's go back to the September sheet. By the way, since we're here, If you click on the pull down for the sheets, that's where you can delete a sheet, duplicate it, copy it to either a new worksheet or an existing worksheet, rename the sheet, color the sheet, protect it, hide it, or move it. Okay, so let's say with sheet 1. So here, I'll even just call that practice, right? So I'm just going to click on that little arrow, and I'll pick on rename, and we'll call that one practice. Good. Let's give that sheet a better color. So I'm going to click on the pull down for the sheet, and we'll say change the color. Let's make it blue. Good. And now let's go back to the September sheet, and we'll say change color, and we'll make that one red. All right, so when you look at those sheets, if you look at that little pull down, then you get some options to do with your sheets. Very good. Let's go back to the September sheet. So for data validation, let's say in this particular workbook, we only want amounts that are 0 to 100,000. Maybe we have another sheet for the larger accounts. Like those are the high-end accounts. But for this sheet, we only want accounts that are between 0 and 100,000. Right now, there's nothing that prevents me from typing that in. If I type in 125,000, it'll accept that. So I want to make it so that it really does validate that data. Let's talk about data validation. So I'm going to make that column bigger, by the way. Good. So I'm going to highlight column B. We'll pick on the data menu. And then we see data validation. So there's different things we can validate against. I can show a list. I can have a number. So it's going to be a number. And then I want between 0 and 100,000. And I'm going to actually reject the input. And we can show the validation helped text. And here it actually came up with a help text, and that seems fine to me. It actually generated that based on what I built over here. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. Let's see if it, first of all, it flags that cell. It already says that that's invalid, right? So that was very helpful. Now let's go ahead and type in -5 there. And now look, it says there was a problem, enter a number between 0 and 100,000. So it really does make it very apparent. And it goes right back to that cell. I'll type in 125,000. And then it really does show that message in a very clear way. So the data validation works very well. So let's type in 34,000, and that'll be fine. But I like the way that it flagged the one that was already in there. All right, so now you can see that little red triangle, and then the message comes up. So we'll change that, let's say to 99,000, and then that one will be okay. So let's try data validation again. Let's say the customer type has to be either new or existing. In fact, for this one, for the data validation, we're going to create a pull down so that you can actually pick from a list of choices. So I'm going to highlight column G. We'll pick in the data menu. Then under data, we'll pick on data validation. In this case, we have a list of items. And then I'll say, so it either has to be new, and you're going to separate these with a comma when you do it this way, new or existing. Good. So we're going to reject the input if they typed in something different. Let's go ahead and pick on save there. Now, notice how each one of those has a little pull down next to the cell, so that when I click on that, then they can pick on either new or existing. Good. What if they typed in something different? So I'll type in savings, and it's going to reject that. All right? So you can see how the data validation is very, very effective. It's really going to make sure they type in certain types of data within your spreadsheet. In computers, we have an expression. Garbage in equals garbage out, right? You ever hear about that? Well, the data validation helps from the data from going in the first place. Now, you can keep that there. It'll be like that until you would remove it. To remove it, I'll pick on column G again. I'll pick on the data menu. And then we're going to pick on clear. We'll go back to data validation. And we'll say remove validation. And now it goes back to normal, as you can see. Excellent technique there. All right, and this one is still in there. So if I type in 125,000, that one is going to reject it, right? So let's remove the data validation from column B as well. When I highlight column B, I'll pick on the data menu, I'll pick on data validation, and I'll say remove validation. Let's go back to the data menu. So we have the sorts, filters, slices we did, data validation. We're going to come up to the pivot table pretty soon. So let's go ahead and protect the ranges. All right, so in this spreadsheet, I want them to be able to change the date, the amount, the account type, but I don't want them to change these cells over here because those are formulas. All right, so I want to protect those. So I'll pick on data, protect the sheet and ranges. Okay, so we're going to say add a sheet or a range. So the range that I want to protect is going to be column H and column I. All right, so then you highlight the range that you want to protect. In this case, I'll say set permissions. And then I can show a warning when editing this range, or I want to restrict who can edit this, only me, or I can make custom. So then when we pick on custom, you can actually start to type in people's names or email addresses. And then in a minute, I'll show you how to share the workbook. But this is a great feature. We can actually limit to certain people to be able to change that. Now, if I type in somebody's email address, they will be able to edit that cell as well, but nobody else could. So we're talking about the internet here. And one of the great features of Google Sheets is I can get to this as long as I have permission to that document anywhere on the internet or from any of your devices. Now, I remember one thing that we're supposed to talk about today is how to get to the application on your phone or on your device other than a computer. So I'm going to go to Google for a second. And over here, I'll type in Google Sheets app. All right. So on your phone or on your device, go to the Apple Store or go to the Google Play Store, and then look for the Google Sheets app. All right. So here we go, and then I'll get to it, and then I would download that to my phone or my device. Then you can actually get to those same files from your phone or your device that you can get to from your computer. They're all using the Google Drive, you see. So if you have that app on your phone, it'll ask you to log on to your Google Drive, and you'll be able to get to it from there as well. I do it all the time. So there's some Google files, Google Sheet files that I get to from my phone. So I have the Google Sheets app on my phone. All right, so then I logged on to my Google Drive, and I'm able to get to those files from the phone. So you can get to that from the Google Store or from the Apple Store. This way you'll be able to get to your files at all times. It's a great feature. I use that one a lot. I just wanted to make sure you saw how here I am at the Google Play Store, and then it's already installed on my phone actually. But you would go to your Google Store or the Apple Store, and then search for Google Sheets specifically, and then download that. And then once you install it, it'll ask you to log on to your Google Drive, and then you're in. All right, so that was a nice feature. Anyway, let's keep on going back to here. Now, let's go back to our slides for a second. At this time, we're on the Insert menu, and we saw some of the great features on the Insert menu. That's where you can get to your functions. That's where we did the hyperlink, images, the new sheets are there. All right, so that's another way you can add a new sheet. On this particular window, I said Insert, and then Function, and then you see your basic functions up there, and then all the other categories of the functions. Now remember, another way to get to your functions is through the auto sum right over here on the toolbar. Then we were talking about the Format menu. Under the Format menu, we did the themes, we did format numbers. You can see your basic formatting. There's the text wrapping that we did. There's the text rotation that we did. There's conditional formatting and the alternating colors. A lot of great features under the Format menu. Then, of course, the Data menu. The Data menu is where we can sort, filter, add the slicer, which is what we did that, the data validation. We'll get to the pivot tables in a few minutes. I just showed you how to protect the sheets under the Data menu. Oh, here's a pretty good one. Let's do text to columns and remove the duplicates. Great features that we're going to use all the time. So I'm going to go back to Google Sheets now. Good. So first of all, now notice how the protection is on. And you saw how I was able to do that through the Data menu, right over here. I'm going to close that window now. I'm going to cause some duplicate data to occur on purpose. So I'll type in Monday again. Good. And I'm going to click there, get the black cross, and we'll drag it down a few. Good. So actually, let me get rid of some of those. So you can clearly see how Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are duplicated. Now, this could be a big, long data, a big, long list of data. So I'm going to highlight the information, and I'll pick in the Data menu, and we'll say Remove Duplicates right over here. Good. So in this case, 10 rows and 1 column selected. It could have been multiple rows. In this case, I'll say Remove Duplicates. And it says 3 duplicate values found and removed, 12 unique items remain. So I'll click on OK, and that's exactly what happened. All right, so let's cause some duplicate data to occur. We're going to highlight the data. I'll pick on the Data menu, and then Remove Duplicates. All right, sometimes the data has headers, this one does not. Then I picked on Remove Duplicates, and I was able to do that pretty easily. Good. Now here's a classic one. I'm going to type in my name, but I'm going to type in my first name and my last name in the same cell. And then I'm just going to make up some names. If this happens to be your name, it's a pure coincidence. So we'll do Paula Jackson, Loretta Sanders, and Kelly Briers, and John Jameson. Okay, so we have some names there, right? Now, if I make that column bigger, clearly the first name and the last name is in the same cells. Well, here we're going to do text to columns. We're going to split that. So I'm going to highlight that information. We'll pick in the Data menu. And then we'll do, then under the data, we'll do split text to columns. Good. So for the separator, we can detect automatically, or we can tell that it's something specific. So in this case, clearly it's a space. But that time, when it detected automatically, it probably would have found the space as well. But very quickly, I was able to split that. Watch again. I'm going to undo that. So we're going to highlight that information. Could have been all the way down. Then I picked in the Data menu, and I picked on split text to columns. We could try to detect it automatically, but I'll just tell it that it's a space, and then it just does it for us, as you can see. Classic feature that's called text to columns. That was under the data menu. Okay, good. So let's go back to our slides for a second. You can see our data menu is there. I'll show you most of those features. Then we have the Tools menu. Under Tools, we have a form, which is like a data entry screen. Here is where you can start to do your macros. We're not going to do any macros today, but that is where you can find your macros within Google Sheets. Then that's where our spell checking is, the autocomplete. This is where we can protect the sheet again. So if I pick in the Tools menu, if I pick on Tools, then we see Protect the Sheet. And then you get the same kind of choices. Do I want to protect the range or the entire sheet? All right. So we also found that, if you recall, under the data menu. We can close that window. There are many add-ons that you can get from Google Sheets. If you pick on Add-Ons, then we'll say Get Add-Ons. And then, there's many things that will be helpful for you. You should go through those and see if some of those can help you. Of course, you can search for them. And I bet you can find something that's already built that is just an add-on. It's widely supported. And it's getting more and more support out there. All right, so no problem with that. Now, I want to get rid of this information over here. So I'm going to highlight all of that data, and we'll press delete. Good. Now, this document is in Google Sheets, and it's on my Google Drive. I want to now save this as an actual spreadsheet in Excel. So what I'll do is I'll pick on File, and then we'll pick on Download. I can download it to an Excel file. This is another type of spreadsheet, Open Document. We can save it as a PDF. We can save it as a web page. Comma delimited as a CSV, or a tab separated as a TSV. So let's go ahead and save it as an Excel file onto my computer. And you can see what happened. It actually converted that file into Excel, and then we have the banking file that it downloaded automatically. So if I click on that, that's going to open up that file in actual Excel, as you can see. Good. There's that actual file in Excel. It has the sheets and everything, right? So that was pretty easy to do. Let's go back to Google Sheets now. In that case, I picked on the File menu. Then I picked on Download, and you see your different file types. A CSV is a very popular file type. It's a text file. Do it as a web page, PDF, and then even Excel. Now let's talk about sharing that file with other people. So now you want to invite other people to use this document. So you come over here and you pick on Share. So then you would type in people's email address. Separate the email addresses with a comma. So they have to log on to Google Drive with their email address. So that's why it's specified by email address. Good. So I might say, you can now edit this file. Please check it out. So that's actually going to send an email to those people with a link, and then we can send an invitation or just send a link All right, so that'll actually share that file with those people. Good. All right, so now that's kind of true for all of the things under Google Drive. Even the Google Docs will have something over there that's called Share. The Google Sheets, of course, the slides, which is like PowerPoint, can share the documents in that way. Let's go back to our slides now. So we saw some of the tools, especially the spell checker is there. Protect sheet is where we talked about before. Right? Let's go to our next slide. There's lots of help available. All right, so you can Google is pretty good at providing help, and it's widely supported there. So just pick on the help menu. Even here, you can report an issue. Now, even here, there's keyboard shortcuts. So let's see some of those. We're going to go back to Google Sheets. I'll pick on the help menu, and then we say keyboard shortcuts. And you'll see there's many of them, right? Many, many keyboard shortcuts. Good. Let's go back to our slides. Oh, so this is when you right-click on a cell. Let's see some of those choices again. So let's say you right-click on a comma, or on a column, or on a cell. Here we can do cut and paste, copy and paste. Let me show you what an example of paste special. So I have this formula. I just want to get a copy of those numbers without the formula. That would be a great example of the paste special. So I'm going to right-click on column I, and I'll pick on copy. I'm going to right-click on column J. Here we'll do paste special with the values only. So if you ever use paste special in Excel, it'll be similar choices. Here, this means the values without the formulas, or just the format only, everything except the borders, the column width, the formulas. We can do everything. We can do the data validation copying, right? Conditional format, or the, let me show you what transpose means as well. So I'll do paste special with the values only. If I look in this column, it has the formula. If I look at this column, it just has the number without the formula because we did the values only. Let me show you what paste special transpose means. So here I'll type in January again. And I'm going to click there and get the black cross and drag it down. What if I really wanted that to go across instead of down? Well, I'm going to highlight those cells, pick on copy. Then I'll right-click over here and pick on paste special and paste transpose. And now it flips it. What used to be, what was the column is now the row, right? So that's an interesting way to switch the columns and rows. What's called transpose. So you can see when I right-click on the cell or right-click on that column, we get copy and paste special, insert and delete, resize, sort. There's the protect the range again. Let's do a named range, okay? So in this case, I'm gonna, let's go to a different spreadsheet. So I'm gonna import an Excel spreadsheet again. Let's say File, Import. Once again, I'll pick in the word upload. And this time, I'll get the chart example because I'd like to show you how we can make a chart from here as well. So it can really import just about any kind of Excel spreadsheet. And now you see we're on the chart spreadsheet. So let me go ahead and over here I'll type in tax rate. And then let's say where I am, it's going to be 7%. All right. So here's how you would name a cell. I'm going to right-click on that cell and then say define named range. And so I'm going to go ahead and add a range, and I'll call it tax rate. And we don't want to use spaces there. So I typed in tax rate with no spaces. So now I can use the word tax rate in a formula. Watch how that would work. So here I'll type in sales tax, and I'll say equals the number for that row times, and I can use the word tax rate, and it shows up in the list. Good. And it knows what that refers to. So it might be easier to remember that name rather than trying to remember where that actual cell is. So I can use the name in my formula. So the way I named that cell is I clicked, let me format those numbers, of course, and then we'll make a currency format. I right-clicked in that cell and I said define named range. And then I can add a range, or just like before, I can edit that and so on. Then we can use that name in a formula. All right, so let's go back to our slides. Good. So you see, you can do a lot of great things when you right-click on a cell or right-click on a range of cells, and that was called define the named range. We talked about protecting, talked about conditional formatting and data validation. I'm trying to show you the important features when you're using Google Sheets. And then I talked about how to share it with other people on this slide. So you look for that word share on the right-hand side. And then once you do that, you would type in their email addresses. So in fact, you're inviting people to browse that document or to be able to view it and change it. You're sharing that document. And then you can also even protect it at that point. What if you share it with somebody, but you don't want them to change every cell? Then that's where you would add the protection in there as well, like we talked about. Here's the screen where you would add their email addresses once we share that document. And then down on this slide, it's showing you when you right-click on a sheet, we can duplicate the sheet or pick on copy, rename the sheet, we can change the color, you can protect the entire sheet. Okay, and in this case, this is how you export something to Excel like we talked about. So you would pick on File, and then Download, and we could save it to an Excel file, a PDF, a web page, a CSV, and so on. Now, let's quickly see if we can make a chart out of this data. So I'm back to Google Sheets now. This data will make a pretty good chart, and I'll show you why. Because it has the column headings and the row headings. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight from A3 to I9. Your charts are going to be under the Insert menu. So if I say Insert, and then we say Chart. So then it made a pretty good chart for us, as you can see. Now, let's go ahead and move that chart, and I'll even resize it so you can see the chart. Good, perfect, looking good. Now, when we click on that chart, then we get this chart editor window over here. From here, I can change the chart type. Lots of chart types, just like Excel might have, right? There's some that Excel has and some Excel that doesn't have. There's some map charts, some good-looking charts there. So we'll go with the bar or the column. So the data range is fine. The x-axis is down here at the bottom. The y-axis is over on the side. So that looks good to me. Then we have the different series of data. You can change those. Now let's see what I'd like to do. Switch row and columns. Let's see what that does. So right now, January and February is on the legend. If I pick on switch row and column, then now January and February is on the x-axis and the department names are on the legend. So that's what switch row and column means. Good. So you can see on the chart editor, the setup menu is there. And this is where we change the chart type and define the data. Let's go into the customize menu of the chart. And then this is where we can change the chart style, different colors and formats, of course. The chart title. So I'd like to have a chart title. So let's say we have the chart title, and I'll say sales by office, or how about budget by department. Good. All right, so that looks good. So then we see the chart title there. Let's see what else I'd like to have. I'd like to have a title on the side. So that's going to be called the vertical axis title. And then, so that's the vertical axis as far as the numbers go. So you can see we have many formatting choices. The legend is over here on the side, vertical axis, looking good. So to make that chart, I was just able to highlight the data, and you want to make sure that the column headings are in the first row that you highlight, and the row headings are on the left column. And then from there, I picked on the Insert menu and then Chart. Once you have your chart, you'll click on it. And then if I pick on the three dots, at this point, I can edit the chart from which you get the other window. So the setup is like the chart type, some major things about the chart. And then if I pick on Customize, those are the different individual sections of the chart, like the chart title and so on. So the question is the chart tied to the data? So let's go ahead and make the chart larger. And we can see how it says sales and marketing over here, and it says research and development over here. So if I actually go back to the spreadsheet, here I'll type in sales, and then here I'll type in R&D. And then we'll see that the chart, in fact, did update. So the chart is dynamic with the data. If we change the data on the spreadsheet, the chart is also going to change. One other feature I'd like to show you is that even here we can make a pivot table. Let me at least get you started with that. Now each different workbook shows up as a different tab in your Explorer. Now I do use Google Chrome. So Google Chrome is another Google product. It works very well with the Google Sheets. Can you use a different internet browser? Of course, but Google Chrome will work the best with it, in all honesty. So I'm going to close this document. Each document shows up as a different tab in your browser. So I'm going to close that one. And here is where we were trying to get some different data, right? This sheet will actually make a pretty good pivot table because it has the column headings and rows of data. So to get a pivot table started, I'll pick on the Insert menu, and then, or how about the Data menu, and then under Data, we'll say Pivot Table. Good. So we'll make it the pivot table in a new sheet. And then you can start to see it's similar to a pivot table in actual Excel. So for the rows, I'll add the branch. For the columns, I'll add the, how about the account type. And then for the values, I'll add the amount. I mean, what was that? 15 seconds or something like that? So the pivot table is built right into here, and you can start to get some great results. What if I want to also have the count as well as the amount? So for the value section, I'll pick on Add. We'll do the amount again. But that, now look, this one will be a count rather than a sum. So now I have it broken down by branch, by account type. I have the sum and the count for each branch and account type. And that's the kind of results that we can start to get with a pivot table. So going back to the original data here, you can see how it has the column headings, which are important. Then I picked on Data and then Pivot Table, and away you go. So this time we'll do it by account type, and then for the values, we'll just do amount, and then we just have a summary by account type. If I want to then add the branch, I'll pick on columns and then pick on branch, and now we have a perfect pivot table. So as you can see, everybody, Google has really upped their game with Google Sheets. There's so much that you can do with it now, And it's really starting to approach the full functions of Excel. And you can see why many people are starting to use Google Sheets.